Hello, everybody. Welcome to the first random fractal test consensus group. The purpose of this call is to reach consensus on everyone's contributions this past week and to learn more about what everyone's doing and what type of contributions you would value if you were in a group with these people in the future. I'm going to say, well, this past week, my contribution is I released the white paper that defined this whole process. So that's my contribution. And of course, I'm here today helping out. So I'm not going to take my full 5 minutes because I think you guys already understand what I've done. I'm going to hand the floor over to Joshua. I will just go down my screen. So Joshua, Tim, Dan, Jay, and Lenny. Each of you can take a couple minutes to describe who you are and make a case for your contributions.
All right, I'll start off. Joshua Seymour. I wear a few hats in the community, and I would say my main contribution this week was working to digest the fractally white paper. So I'm gonna rank myself at the bottom in the group today. But I'm excited to hear what the other contributions are from the past week.
Well, I know that I've seen you around on social media, Joshua. So you've done more than just digest the white paper. You've also been tweeting and discussing and helping answer questions about it. So don't sell yourself short.
I'll go next. I agree, Joshua. I think you were selling yourself short. You've made quite a few posts that are helpful and thoughtful. So I'm a lawyer, and have been struck by the idea that I think part of the world will become tokenized, and so I want to participate that in a helpful, fruitful way. I'm a member of Eden. So one of the first, I guess the second tranche of add-ins, I came in through Ami, who I don't know if he's on this call or not. I've read the white paper, and I've been tracking the comments and Telegram chat and Discords and Twitter to try and keep abreast of what the evolving issues are. With my vision would be to try and help facilitate and mediate against kind of this natural conflicts that tend to come up. And so I've been brainstorming on ideas that can help us work together to achieve our common vision, which is the promotion of both all three, Eden, fractally, and EOS, and to try and track with the community so that we can avoid pitfalls and obviously things like the risk of stumbling blocks where it creates division and conflict, where there's the discussion of a possible legal action between the ENF and Block 1, for example. That's the type of community conflict that creates a slowdown in our ability to advance towards what our vision is. The two things that I want to focus on to contribute is to push for token standardization. And I know that Dan has a vision of how to create through the automatic market maker an exchange that takes advantage, that's able to create a synergy based upon a standardized token, probably modeled somewhat after the ERC20 standard, if you could call it that, but then add to it in a way that benefits the fractally community. I think that's a key feature to the success of fractally, and I want to promote it. And I think it may be appropriate because I see fractally as taking on a huge prominent role in the tokenization process, that we may want to focus on a standard that's something like a Web3 standard, where you can pick and choose from a list of a glossary of terms that can be included in a particular token. And because it's clear that we're going to be one of the leaders in creating a standardized token, that we should also keep an eye on what is already existing out there, something like the broad community standard for tokens in general. And then I have, we also have naming issues and onboarding of new accounts that also kind of have an overlap between the ability to name an account, and also it's connected to our personal identities. We want to avoid Sybil attacks. And one of the ways that I can contribute is to contribute a URL, the domain name tokencities.com, and use that as kind of a basic search engine that can help fractally members identify who they are and search different fractally groups and be able to share information on it could start out with just a profile by profile search engine that can help lead. Go ahead.
Yeah. Can I interrupt you? You're getting way into the future.
5 minutes. Okay, that's how I'm going to launch that domain to assist the community to focus on the tokens and the naming.
Okay.
I didn't have a timer. Sorry.
Yeah, sorry, there's someone joining. I was trying to deal with that. Yeah, what I'm trying to do is, like, if we focus more on what's happened in the past and less on aspirations, all those things you talked about are great. Obviously, a lot of those things are not things you're going to be doing directly. So yeah, I think that's one of the things that groups will need to get practice as. Let's focus on tangible, measurable things that have already happened. And to the extent that there are aspirations, they should be things that you would value if you or anyone did. And that's information for future weeks so someone can actually do it. But the more concrete and defined and less aspirational the things are, it makes it easier to rank, because how do you rank a vision? Everyone can compete to have the biggest, grandest possible vision. And that's, but it's great. It's nice meeting you, Jay. And thank you so much for sharing.
Just give feedback on that. So I purchased the domain name tokencities.com that I think will benefit the community.
Great. Yeah, I'm looking at describing a fractal as a city and working on some animated graphics with respect to visualizing all the different components of different parts of a city. So that would be fitting. But yeah, thank you. Tim.
Yeah, good morning, good afternoon, everyone. Tim Taylor. I'm a product manager for a San Francisco Bay located company, and I've been doing product management for going on about 20 years with various large corporations. So became very interested in this space, started doing some research. The name Dan Larimer kept coming up when I was doing my research. So I did get the More Equal Animals book, have read that. So I would summarize what I've done in the past week is 3 main things: learning, researching, and sharing. Consuming the white paper, being in the Telegram group, just trying to learn as much as I can, reviewing all the Twitter posts, YouTube videos, spending a lot of time doing that. And then I've also reached out to a few folks that are like-minded as me, and I think some of the folks in this group to try and perk their interest, added them to the Telegram group. So we'll see. Some of the things that I hope to bring to this group is I do have a strong product background. So, this in my mind is a POC of sorts, although we're not POCing the technology, we are POCing the process. So there will be lessons learned. There'll be a process that we could document for future members, maybe an onboarding process. I know that will change as the technology is onboarded, but at least we can start to document the process and the lessons learned. So that's it for me. Thank you. Glad to meet everyone.
All right, Lenny?
Here we go. Now you hear me. Yes, I'm Lenny, and I'm the kind of, well, my background in general is as a serial entrepreneur and always interested in tech similarly, but in no way or fashion a technician myself. Possibly good at thinking technical items, but not to work with them, programming or similar. I'm more a kind of a governance guy, aggregating a lot of information for myself and similarly. And as it relates to Eden, it's been when there were discussions on private groups or not, and similarly, I started the recaps, as some of you might be aware, the weekly recaps of our discussions. And besides that, which in itself is pretty much, and this week particularly much, although you can try to keep it simple and short, the idea with a recap is actually to try to stir up a bit of interest. What links were relevant? What are the major moves in Eden? Not to reflect everything said, but to kind of entice particularly members to come in and actually read what is posted on the different groups of relevance, because that's normally one of the big issues in most communities. Pareto principle again, how many are active, but you can increase it with different means. So I've been working in organizations and all kind of leaderships in various, from governmental downward to sports and similarly. Beside the recaps for Eden and EOS, I, of course, do my share of sharing LinkedIn and other places and information on that. And what I've been thinking, I've spent so many hours now reading up on fractally. And the more I read, the more I like it and understand it. I haven't got a grip on it full out now, but it sounds very promising, I must say. And the problem is people do not, it's so much information to gather together from interviews and others to get over different facets. But I'm thinking that we should almost set up eventually in future, but even now, I might start focus on putting together a bit of somehow a compendium. Where are the links to the small things, you know, where do you get it? And for people to learn about fractally, because it's so much right now, that I think not many people have the strength to plow through it, and they just follow the stream, and there is a lot of negative sentiments as well. So that's basically it, what I've done this week and what I'm hoping to keep on doing in future. I'm on a additional 3 months contract where I'm kind of full-time out of my home and my home office. So it'll be limited to help in other areas. But after that, my goal is to be only 50% for fiat money, and then the rest building my pension on blockchain and similarly. That's me.
Nice meeting you, Lenny. And I guess Dan.
Cool. Well, thank you, Dan, so much for all the great work with Fractally and all the great work in general. It's great to meet you and see you. And thanks, Lenny, and thanks everybody for all the great work as well. It's super exciting to be here, like the first fractal or one of the first fractals. So yeah, my name is Dan Singjoy. I'm also known as Dogman in the EOS community. I'm a musician, a creator, and entrepreneur working to make the best experience possible. And yeah, like I said, I'm super excited to be here. For the past week, I've been reading and listening constantly to all the news about Fractally and EOS and everything that's going on, and learning as much as I can. Still have a lot more learning to do, but from what I see so far, it seems super, super helpful. And I've been writing a lot of responses to things I see in the Telegram chats and on Twitter. I've only shared like here and there, a little bit here and there when I'm able to share a little bit, but mostly I've just been inspired to write a lot because I see lots of things where people, where I think I can help people understand how Fractally can be really helpful and a lot of missing information. And so I've been writing some more detailed explanations about how it can help and making pictures and so forth to help people understand the benefits of Fractally. Also, for the past month or so, I've been building something called the Fractal Forums, which I've been planning to launch Eden communities, or now Fractal communities, for quite a while, since we started talking about Eden and Eden on EOS and More Equal Animals back in mid 2021. So for the past month or so, I've been speaking with many people in the EOS community and the Eden community. I've been on a few different community calls and delegate calls, explaining how we can start experimenting with the Eden process, or now the fractally process. Originally, I was planning to do it with the Eden process, basically, but modifying in a few ways. But now, as I've been reading the fractally white paper, I've been planning on just proposing it with many or most of the fractally purposes, similar to how we're doing in this call. And I've also reached out with some Eden delegates, such as Brendan Lovejoy, who have expressed willingness to fund it with EOS. And I'm also working with the consortium team to build some tokenomics where we can also have governor rewards, which is the native currency of the consortium platform. So I'm very excited about this Genesis group that we're doing here. And I've also been working on very similar things. And for the past almost a year, as I said, I've also been building, I don't know if I mentioned by name, but Eden Creators, which is what I've been planning to build as kind of a DAO of DAOs to help launch fractal communities and also help people learn about fractally, or fractal governance, fractal democracy, and DAOs. And also for the past decade or so, I've been building the foundations for many exciting communities that can become fractals for all sorts of fun and creative and helpful purposes. So I'm super excited about this and fractally, and super excited to help, and really excited to help people understand fractally and experiment the fractally process. And yeah, so I suppose that's it, a good introduction for now. Hope that made sense, and happy to answer any questions, and happy to be here. Thanks, everybody.
All right, there is a link that Joshua published for a Google spreadsheet that we can use to help track things. You know, I'm going to not insert my opinion here on what happens next, because I want to see what happens. So I'll provide my opinion at the end, but you guys go ahead and try to reach consensus on the order without me, and I'll let you know if I agree.
Okay, I'd like to make a suggestion. I have been listening, and I think just to start out with a framework, by me casting what I would potentially suggest as a vote would be, there's 6 members, and so we would start at 2. So in reverse order, the highest award, we would go down from 21, 13, 8, 5, 3, and 2. And just my proposed skeletal ranking would be Dan Larimer 21, Lenny 13, Dan Singjoy 8, Joshua 5, Tim Taylor 3, Jay Taylor 2, and I think that might be pretty close how it shakes out.
All right,
Can we put the spreadsheet on the screen?
Yeah, so go ahead and I'll share
Good idea,
my
Josh.
second. Share screen. I want to share.
And just by the way, it's 9:51 Pacific time, which means it's 5:51 UTC. So to the extent we have to reach a consensus within the first 60 minutes, we may want to practice bumping up against a time deadline. And so it may be helpful, if you like my proposal, to jot it down and then try and see if we can reach a quick consensus on it.
All right, Jay, what did you rank yourself as?
2.
Okay. And Lenny, what was 13?
Yes.
Oh, sorry. And what was, and Dan Singjoy was 8?
Yes.
All right. Does anyone want to propose any changes to that?
Yes, I might like to do some adjustments. I can actually do it on this one here. If I do it, I would also, sorry, I'm going ahead. Do I have a tape floor? Yes.
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, 21 on Dan for given reasons. Well, we don't have to reason it really. I would put Joshua on actually the 13. Although he say he mainly been reading up on the white paper, that is a massive effort to do so. And he's also very active in the different groups, keeping discussions going, moving it in different directions, which is vital. There are not too many that are vocal.
Yeah,
So
I'm not making a real pitch today. I'm purposefully trying to put myself at the bottom, if you guys will accept, just as part of the experiment.
all right. Okay, but let my 13. We got other guys who can push you down again.
We all
All
have to
right.
reach- If you want to be on the bottom, we might not think you deserve to be.
Right.
Yeah. So anyway, I would actually put me as the third one. Similar, because I know the number of hours I spent on this, even if I doesn't really have the time. Although, like Dan said, he's been a bit lax, but I know what he do equality. So normally I would have him higher up, but as I don't quite have a feeling for Jay and Tim, except for what we heard here. And I know Jay is also very active, but there's been warnings of flooding, Jay. You notice that sometimes.
And I
so
apologize.
yeah, a little bit, yeah. But I
I'm
would
lucky to-
actually still put you on 8. Sorry, that was the next level down, 5. And then Dan, I would keep him the next level, 3. And sorry, Tim, I put you on 2. Nothing personal, but just for how I read it this time. Did I get it right for numbering? I think so.
Yeah, I think actually it only goes up to 13, but yeah, this is good enough. We should start at 1, but
Yeah, fair enough.
but that's fine. It's still it's really ranking 1 through 5. You don't have necessarily have to like keep the Fibonacci mapping. We're just ranking 1 through 5. So
something I'm wondering as we're doing this is I'm wondering if writing it on the spreadsheet and looking on the spreadsheet is the best approach to figuring out the ordering. Like partially, it's like when we're looking at the spreadsheet, it naturally takes our gaze and our attention away from like each other and our faces, and that kind of puts like a bit of barrier in the communication. And I wonder if maybe it's better to kind of, I don't know, either rather than looking at the spreadsheet and doing it all at once from each person's perspective, like first agree upon it, come to consensus about who deserves the number 1 spot, who did the best, or who should be number 1, and then come to consensus about who should be number 2, and then 3. Or alternatively, it could be like, let's focus on Dan's first, and then Josh, and then Tim, and then see where they are. I think probably it makes the most sense to focus, as I was previously saying though, about figuring out number 1 first and number 2, number 3. Do you think that makes sense?
I think that's an excellent suggestion, because one of the things I mentioned in the paper was I didn't want to get into a situation where we're doing scoring and tallying to figure things out, because then people will game how they tally things to try to get the result. And if people think that, well, we should just sum them up and that should be the consensus, that might not actually be the consensus. So the process you suggested might be more like Eden, right? Eden picks 1, right? Now they're out, pick the next person. They're out, just keep going down. It might be the best way to go. So since it seems pretty obvious which way this is going to go, are there any objections to the consensus that I'm the biggest contributor to ƒractally this week? All right, that's closed. Who's the next biggest one? I think so far the candidates for number 2 are Lenny and Jay. I would like to throw Dan up there in the mix.
Agree.
Yeah, sorry.
Lenny would be my pick for number
Joshua,
2.
Joshua and Lenny. Joshua, Lenny, and Dan are the 3 that I'm.
Any objections to rank? I guess if we're using the simple numbers, I'd like to rank Lenny number 5 this week.
So you're saying Lenny is 5.
Yeah, Lenny didn't mention this, but he's also been helping a lot to organize the Eden delegates. The Eden delegates have their own group, and Lenny really holds it down in there.
I could support Lenny for 5, but that's just my opinion. Does anyone have any objections to Lenny being number 5? Lenny goes to number 5. All right. Now, number 4.
Dan, I don't know, Dan Singjoy, I don't know if you mentioned this, but you're working on a DAO, a potential fractal project, actively called Eating. At the moment, it's called Eating Creators. Have you been working on that this week, or has the fractally white
yeah.
paper interrupted it?
Well, yeah, so it's been a lot of learning about fractally, of course, but it's also been throughout updating the plans for Eden creators to help fractally. So I've been working on like how Eden creators can create fractal tutorials and create video content and so forth. And one of the things I talked about in some previous videos, or actually a few weeks ago, I shared kind of an introduction in the ES main Telegram chat to Eden creators. And one of the things I mentioned is how Eden creators can help edit videos. And so I think Eden creators can help edit videos like this. And I've been thinking quite a bit about, there's so much amazing content in the Telegram chats and these videos. And so I've been saving all the different content that I think is helpful to edit, saving timestamps, saving screenshots, so that I can share these in like an open source these in like a repository for Eden creators to help fractally grow.
I'm convinced that Dan Singjoy could take the number 4 slot.
Any
Any
objections to Dan being number 4? All right. Number 3.
Thanks.
Anyone want to nominate someone for number 3?
I think Joshua almost by default has to take the number 3 slot because of his contributions. I think there's almost already a consensus that he's been vital to this process leading up to today, and including his contribution and preparation for this week, and his posts, and even the spreadsheet is very helpful.
Well, if you guys won't allow me to be at the bottom this week, then I'll take it.
I'll also add to Joshua, over the past few days, you've been sharing a lot of super helpful comments. I've taken like so many screenshots and so many like longer messages you've been sharing in the Telegram chats. And then also just like conversations you've been having with Dan and Chuck and so many people. So yeah, I very much appreciate all the work you've been doing over the past week and longer, but especially the past week too.
Yeah, thanks, Dan. I'm a
All
loose
right.
cannon out there on Telegram.
So that leaves.
It's nice to see for what. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, that leaves the Taylors. Do you guys want to sort out between yourself?
Yeah, I would say Jay ahead of me for sure. I'm new to this space, still trying to learn and see how I can contribute other than just better understanding the space. So yeah, I put Jay ahead of me for sure.
Anyone want to advocate for Tim over Jay?
Jay got that domain.
Yeah.
All right. Well, it seems like we have consensus. I think we did this whole process in about 40 to 45 minutes. I don't know exactly when this call started, but the pre-call.
Yeah.
I've got it, Dan. At 11:33 we started, and reaching consensus took us 12 minutes.
Okay, so thank you, Tim. So yeah, 33 minutes for the entire call, and it was fun for me. I want to give any feedback.
I think the biggest takeaway was the realization of the best way to approach getting consensus. The way that we did it there at the end, that was pretty fast.
Yeah. All right. Great contribution, Dan Singjoy.
Thanks, and I'm happy to help. And yeah, I'll also add that this meeting has been really fun and really interesting, and it's been great to see everybody. And I think that everybody here deserves a lot of respect because everybody's doing great work, and it's awesome. Like this is also, I feel like, kind of historic, and yeah, so it's super exciting, super fun, and thanks everybody so much.
Thank you. So what would normally happen here if this was a real fractal is we'd each enter this in our own user interface, right? And we'd all have to enter it exactly correctly because we submit blind. So anyone who is not on this call couldn't guess what our consensus is until all votes are in. So no bots or anything like that would be able to do that. So unless you're here and you hear what the consensus was, you have no idea how the group actually reached consensus. Then after everyone submits their pre-commit, which is all going to be automated by the software, then what would happen is everyone would reveal their pre-commit. So it'd be 2 transactions to the blockchain, all automatic. You don't even have to approve anything. And anyone who submitted something different than Lammer, Lenny, Singjoy, Joshua, Jay, Tim, you wouldn't get anything because you were disagreeing with the 2/3 consensus. And if more than half didn't agree, then no one would get anything. So it's basically proof of consensus, proof that you know what the consensus is, you were able to enter it, and you matched what everyone else did. And that proof of consensus works even if the video call was not really recorded, because unless someone's leaking information through side channels, no one knows what the consensus was unless they participated on the call. And then if there were more than 72 groups, we'd have another round. And I would advance to the next round where I would have the opportunity to move on up in the ranks. All right, I'm going to go ahead and stop recording. Stop sharing.
Now I can tell you how I really feel about the order.
One thing I raised my hand.